back to another great episode of Cuyahoga Sound Podcast.
First one of the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Recording the first one of the year.
Recording
That's
the
right.
first one.
Yeah,
Wow.
we took a
that in
nice break since we've been down in this basement doing these. And our first guest recording for the new year is Tyler Ray.
Hi.
What's your real last name?
Lobdell.
Tyler Lobdell.
Yeah, try spelling that.
Yeah.
It's spelled like it sounds.
L-A-U-B.
L-O-B.
L-O-B. All right.
It's okay.
I'm off already.
I always, whenever I go places and I tell, people say Lobdell, I say that's an oddball. I mean, there's about 500 people in the country with the last name Lobdell. It's supposedly Scotland. It's from of Scottish origin.
Okay.
When I was in Greece with my mom and my sister, because my mom's grandfather came from Greece, we were at a restaurant, and I went up to the bar at that point, and I happened to talk to a guy who was from Scotland, and I was like, I've always been told that my family's last name is from Scotland, and he goes, oh, what is it? And I said Lobdell, and he goes, that's not Scottish. I don't know who told you that. My friend Walt Mahovlich, he's a horn player, multi-instrumentalist. He works with a lot of Eastern European type bands, Harmonia specifically. They focus on playing Ukrainian music in the greater Cleveland community, weddings, festivals. He loves language. He's told me that it could possibly be of Spaniard origin.
Okay.
Cadell, something like that, meaning captain. So I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, so my mom gave me the name Tyler Ray, and so I just use that. It flows a little bit easier.
I learned that our last name, so Schilling is
yeah.
A lot of the Schillings got rid of the C during World War II in the U.S. because they wanted to seem more British than German.
Really?
So yeah, a lot of the Schillings with the C's.
I
went
would
away.
never have guessed German.
Yeah, it was some old guy. Actually, my wife and I just traveled abroad, and we had to go through Germany, and the checkpoint was like sticklers with everybody, and we're like, oh, this is gonna take forever.
Right. This is gonna be
Like
tough.
Schilling, go ahead. And her maiden name was Steinbrink. Which
Oh well,
there's
you
a
were
city
already
there.
ready to
Yeah,
go off the plane. They
guys are cool.
They rolled out the red carpet for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pierogies
Smooth
and
sailing.
brats.
My last name, I don't know.
Stone.
It's been around since
The
The
Stone
age.
Age.
prehistoric. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
The
older than
dinosaurs knew you.
older than
That's right,
bronze.
Older than bronze. I like that.
Cool. All right, well, let's get into the music, shall we?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What's
Turn to stone.
Yeah. What instruments you play?
Okay. Largely, I play guitar. Done that with a few different bands in Cleveland. I played bass in jazz band in high school. I've played mandolin. I've learned to play octave mandolin, which is also called bouzouki. It's used in Irish and Greek traditions and other Eastern European music.
Cool. How's that strung up? The octave mandolin.
The octave mandolin is strung in D standard if you play the Eastern European style of the instrument. If you play the Irish Celtic style of the instrument, it's tuned in E standard in fourths. Or I'm sorry, fifths, like a violin. So
okay.
it would be G, D, A, E, where the E string is at the top. Your first string, you have a high E and then an A, a D, and a low G. So it's reverse of guitar, so it's very easy to pick up. You just
That's
have
right.
to
Think of it upside down.
Yeah, everything's upside down, so it's very easy to translate. The bouzouki is D standard, so it's even easier. You're playing the same thing, just two steps down, and you only have the top four strings of a would-be guitar or lute family instrument. I've dabbled in piano. I've never gotten good at it. I can do like a Hammond organ, just like the 1 and the 5 note, do the basic power chord. I tried to teach myself drums during the pandemic. That didn't work. So instead, actually, I became interested in pedal steel.
Okay.
And so I got online, and they were just starting to become popular in some of the alternative networks. So like WJCU plays a lot of alt rock and alt country in their rotation. And so like Hamilton Lighthouser and Jason Isbell, Sturgill Simpson. God, there's a great tune out right now called "Sleepless in Seattle," like the movie or the show, and I forget who does it. I was just talking about it with Ben Gage the other day, and there's pedal steel on that tune, and I would love to cover that one. But anyways, that's been my love child the last 2 years, is learning that instrument and trying to take that different places. And it's funny because it's traditionally a country instrument. If you go even back even farther, it draws its roots from lap steel, which goes to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history in that instrument, and it's all 4 limbs when you play it. It's full contact. You have your volume pedal with one foot, and then you have a multitude of pedals depending on which instrument you have. Mine is a model from the late 40s. It's one of the first. I was trying to go cheap with it. You know, I didn't want to spend a whole lot on a new instrument that I didn't know, right? In case it didn't work out. But I have 4 different pedals that change the tuning of 6 different strings. And so, you know, you might see me play it, and my left hand keeps the bar on 1 fret marker. My left hand never moves because my feet is doing everything with 1, 4, 5, maybe the 3rd or the minor 6th, and I'll do the whole scale without ever moving my left foot. But I'm doing a marathon underneath, you know?
Right.
Have you done recording with it
Yeah.
yet?
So in the last 2 years, I've really been doing a lot of recording, and I love the recording process. I say a lot because I don't do a lot like some of the more frequent names in our community.
With the pedal steel, I mean, have you been doing
But,
some recording with it?
yeah, my first recordings I did with it, I did a live production with Worry Stone,
Cool.
Pat LaGuardia and Hannah Stack. We did a live stream at the Maltz Museum, and that was, you know, recorded and put out. And then I did some tracks on Karen Spears' album with it. Her album, Karen, self-titled, her debut. Nathan Hedges and I have done some recordings with it. I've been playing with Nathan at the House of Blues on First Friday. We're taking a break. He and his wife Leslie just had their first child.
All right, congratulations, Nathan.
Yeah. So we're taking some time off that gig while he, you know, spends time with his family. So I recorded 2 tracks with him on that. A couple tracks with Karn. Orifice Roth had me on
Cool.
on their track Isn't It, which I thought was a pretty cool gig to get because their previous recorded tracks had pedal steel that were recorded by a gentleman who was part of a band called Steel Magnolia.
Okay.
I don't know much about him. Dylan Stewart is a big fan of them, and he's told me quite a bit about them, but they kind of fall into the modern vein where you would have people in the circle of the Grateful Dead, or like Jason Isbell and Drive-By Truckers. It's kind of in that alt-country cowpunk area. So yeah, I've had some neat opportunities with that instrument.
Fun, man.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's been a lot of fun.
Cool.
What
Great.
type of amp are you running with that? You switch
I
it
use
up?
my AC-15 a lot with it.
Okay.
I have 2 AC-15s, one with a greenback, one with a blueback. I have a couple Marshalls, some antique radio heads that are really close to like a Fender Princeton, and I have a Supro Thunderbolt that is kind of an heirloom, just the head. But typically I run that through the AC-15. The reverb's fantastic. And then the tremolo is equally great with that instrument because the pedal steel can be very bolt, and sometimes the way it's strung, it can interfere with the vocals. So if I throw in the tremolo and back off the volume a little bit, it creates this nice dynamic effect where it goes from being right here in the mix to more settling in underneath.
Yeah.
And I use that a lot with guitar too when I'm playing in a duo setting, or if I'm doing more of a would-be acoustic style act, I'll use that tremolo to really kind of settle back into the mix and hide a little bit, so I'm not distracting from the main
Great, man.
piece
That's
of the
Yeah, just serving as
a great
more of a
place to be.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. Just it's all about the product as a whole. You know, it's all
Yeah.
about the dynamics. You're putting together a hamburger, right? So you've already got the big patty. It's like, I want to be the nice piece of cheese.
Yeah. You need bumper stickers that say that. I'd like to be a nice
That
piece
would
of
be a
cheese.
nice piece of cheese. Yeah. From Pepper Jack, by the way.
Yeah.
So you come from a musical family then? I heard you say it was an heirloom.
My uncle, no, my friend Sam gave me that piece, that Supro, and I'll never get rid of it. And he was, my friend Sam, he's my parents' age. He's a son of the American Legion like my father is, and he runs a radio station out of his garage on a low power license from the FCC. And he said to my dad when I was like 14, he goes, "Hey, I'm running this football program on my radio station, but I play a gig on Fridays. Would your son said he plays guitar. Would he be interested in volunteering at the radio station?" And my dad was like, "You want to volunteer at a radio station?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to volunteer at a radio station. Yeah, I want to go to this barn down the road." And I got in there, and that was all I ever wanted to do after that was broadcasting. So I did I volunteered at the radio station, and I learned a lot from Sam. He had his recording studio right next door. It was kind of set up like this, really. This room here, and then just on the other side of that wall would be all the radio equipment.
Okay.
And I learned a lot from him. And when nothing else was going on, he let me play his '76 Les Paul Custom through the Supro, and he had it plugged into this really strange cab that he also gave me called a Jensen receiver from the 40s, and it had a big 15-inch speaker and this knob on the side that had a tone circuit for the speaker. But the tone circuit for the speaker added 500 ohms to the circuit instead of your normal 8-ohm speaker.
Yeah.
And we blew up the amp playing it through the cab one day. We turned it up all the way. And if you turned the knob, it had 4 positions. If you turned it to 3, it sounded just like the Who's Don't Get Fooled Again. And he hit that A chord, and the amp just like, oh no! Right?
Oh
We
no,
got it
but
fixed,
oh
and-
yes, that
yeah.
had to be cool.
Oh yeah. It sounded great. Amps sound the best they're ever gonna sound right before they blow up.
Absolutely.
It's just like the car goes the fastest it ever will before it stops. But
hear you on
he
that.
subsequently gave me both that amp and that head. So yeah, it's my little heirloom that I'll always keep.
Great. Cool.
Yeah. And subsequently, that radio interest took me into college. I didn't want to go to college. My mom was like, "Yeah, I go to college." You're like, I don't know what you're gonna do, but you got to figure it out. And I studied broadcasting in school, and I was working in TV in Erie for 2 years. And my friend Michael from college, I met him the first weekend, my freshman year. He was going to be a pre-optometry major, and that didn't work out. So my roommate Matt, who I went to high school with, we were like, "Come down to the broadcast department, hang out with us, right?" Well, he went through with us, and he got a job in Youngstown, then got the job in Cleveland, and then there were people that retired, and he referred me to the boss. The boss called me, and I got the job here, and I've been here since November of 2016.
Oh, that's fantastic.
After the Cavs, and after the RNC, and after the Indians.
You're from the Erie area?
Yeah, dirt roads.
Yeah.
Cool. We're going to take a second to thank our sponsor.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
You've been eyeballing some of Chuck's gear, huh?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's this PV wood base that I want. Yeah.
PV wood base.
Yeah, it's early '90s, I think, mahogany body.
Oh, like a T15?
I forgot what model it is. Yeah, something like that.
I just saw it today.
Yeah, he sent it to me. He's like, "How is
T40s,
this?"
They're amazing. They're amazing.
Yeah,
if you ever get your hands on a T60 guitar, get one. The
Yes.
price on them has exploded in the last 5 years. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they really hold their value, and they're unique, and they sound good.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Cool. Anyway, Chuck Kaminsky runs Basement Trader
Yeah.
on Chestnut Street in Painesville. BASSMENT Trader. Yeah. You can't see it, but you know.
Get that 4K
That's what it
crop
is.
on it, you know?
Very quick turnaround on his setups. Used gear. He can get you new gear. Great deals. And he's got a great reverb store as well.
And he's an all-around awesome dude.
He is an awesome dude.
Thanks, Chuck.
Chuck
Thank you,
Kaminsky.
Chuck. So the lights I was just bragging about, one of them went out. We'll see how we look.
It's an imperfect
I think
world.
we're still good.
Screws fall out all the time.
I think
right?
we're still good.
Yeah.
We're still
It's just a
good.
little chiaroscuro lighting is what we called it in college. Just enough silhouette to make it mysterious and blurring.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, combined with Evan's look today, he's the man of mystery.
I like the dual tone glasses. You got red and blue.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I've had a long day, so I, gotta relax for a little bit after that. When we're doing this,
It's like you
to
just
be
want
chill.
half rose-colored glasses, just enough to kind of, it's like
Wow.
some optimism and some realism, both in
exactly.
there.
Yeah, keep your feet on the ground.
Then all the red flags don't look regular.
Hence, I'm here.
They're all white flags of surrender, man.
No. I don't surrender. Not easy.
Cool. So guitar, your big passion?
Yeah, I love the pedal steel, and it's become popular for me. Not a lot of people really do that or have that skill to offer, but guitar is my main love. I've invested a lot into it, and I don't want to see that go to the wayside because it is my first love, and it's my strongest voice. But yeah, I've been doing that for 15 years. I've bought and sold many.
Yeah.
And it's the universal language.
Is the AC-15 your go-to amp with the
It
guitar?
has been lately, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I for a while I was playing. I used to have this big Crate 212 amplifier. That was what I played through for a long time. That's what we got from the small music store, and it was kind of modeled after a Fender DeVille. It was so heavy, and I'd gotten to a point where I was tired of modifying my guitars, where I kind of wanted to challenge myself a little bit more. So in 2016, I decided that I was going to build an amplifier because I liked to play with electricity. And I built my first Bassman copy. And I built it as the preamp of a 59 Bassman, right? And then I messed something up in the power section. I couldn't get it right. I'd never done it before. So I made the power section out of the circuit for a 57 Twin, which is what Eric Clapton used. So I had the Bassman preamp and the twin power amp, and combined them together in one circuit. And that was a great amp. I had two 10-inch Weber ceramic speakers in it, and it was 40 watts. And everywhere I went, they said, "You can't turn that above 3." I loved that amp. I had that amp for a long time. I decided I built a second one, and I built it for profit.
Yeah.
Sold on eBay. And then I loved the other one, but everyone kept telling me to turn it down. So I decided instead to switch to the smaller amplifiers. First, I went the route of the Marshall Origin because I wanted that Bassman style sound, and you can get them at a great price for cheap.
Yeah.
And they have enough wiggle room where even though it's a 20-watt amplifier, they use EL34 tubes. So I swapped that 20-watt OT for a 30-watt and the 10-inch speaker, even though I love 10s, for a 12-inch for the higher wattage rating. And, I mean, that amp sounds like it. I think it sounds – I changed the speaker and the transformer and some of the tubes, and I think it sounds more like a brown face or an early black face than a true Marshall. I love that amp. It's great for recording.
Is it a Weber speaker that you swapped into it?
No, I put a Jensen in it.
Okay.
But I have Webers actually in my Leslie clone that I built. I sold that Bassman that I built to Zach Lefebvre because he's been dabbling in guitar outside of his drumming duties with AJ in the Woods and Guy Snow and the Citizens. And I've been using the Marshall, and then I saw an AC-15 for about the same price floating around, and I was like, I've never played a Vox, but it's got onboard reverb, it's got onboard tremolo. I'm trying to make my pedal board smaller. I don't want a bunch of stuff I got to tap in when I'm playing with Apostle Jones at the time. It was a lot of entertaining, right? And Mikey and Jess are running around, so I'm like, I'm going to run around too, whatever, right? So I switched to the AC-15. I kept the Marshall for more of the sparkle. Marshalls are really a bright amp, you get into your majors and your really high watt amps and your JCM series amps. They're really dark and kind of muddy, but the Origin is built more to that JTM 45 spec, more of that Bassman copy that they did in the mid 60s. So it's really, really sparkly, and it matches up really well with the Vox, because the Vox is built with a circuit that uses resistors that are twice the value of the Fender's resistors off their voltage feed to the tubes, so you get natural compression. So instead of using a compressor pedal up front, you've got that circuit because not as much voltage is being fed to the tubes, so it sags more already, right? And so you have more bloom and not delay. They call it sag because the amplifier reacts a little bit slower, but it makes it for a more harmonic overdrive.
Yeah.
So you can take the compressor off the board, you can take the reverb off the board, and the tremolo off the board. And then if you're using the AC-15 CC1 with the 2 channels, you've got two 12AX7 tubes off front. Now you don't need a gain pedal. You can crank the preamp gain all the way up and bring your master volume down. Or if you have the AC15 CC1X with the Jensen, that has 1 less tube, but you can run them in stereo if you got 2 like me, because you're a nut. So you got a nice clean amp and a good crunchy amp. The Vox is just... I don't want to say it's an overlooked amp. I don't see a lot of them in Cleveland. I see a lot of Fenders. I see a lot of homebrew amps. I see a lot of DeVilles and modern type circuits, which is great for a lot of the modern music we have. A lot of mid-focus music. I see a lot of orange amplifiers and even a couple like Dumbles and Two Rocks, and you get into more of your boutique style stuff. A lot of Dr. Z's, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I can't forget about that. And then, of course, vintage Fenders are very huge through here. Voxes are kind of forgotten unless you're in the Beatlemania thing. Now, that's not really my bag, but I love Tom Petty, and I love the Byrds, and I love that whole California sound. And what those guys do, they were friends with the Beatles, so they played Gretsch, and they played Rickenbacker, and they played Vox. Granted, Rickenbackers were made in California, Gretsch's were made in New York, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But that's just the sound that I always kind of grew up with, and I don't know why it took me so long to get to playing a Vox 15 years into my music, but it's something I've really enjoyed, and it's a sound that's really versatile and applicable to a lot of the music that I've played with people, because it has a nice low-end factor to it, and then it has a sparkle that just kind of sticks out a little bit. It's like everything about the Vox amplifier is like a bunch of little subtle things that make one big standout.
Yeah.
It's not overly loud. It's not overly punchy. It's just got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, like a fine tomato sauce recipe. It's just...
You're doing a better job of selling Vox than Vox does.
I hope they're paying me.
Well, because all you hear is like chime. That's when people say Vox, they say chime.
Right. And how do you describe chime?
Right. So I got, I was flipping gear for a while, and I got an old AC30 here. And that's the only amp that I've sold where, like, I'm on the hunt for one right now. I need to buy another one, because I should not have gotten rid of it. Because I was like, people will buy it because of the Beatles. Like, I didn't care.
Right.
Then I got to playing it. I'm like, this was not what I expected at all.
When you think chime, you think so many people associate chime with mid-range.
Yeah.
I don't know why. You want a mid-range amp, go buy an Orange, go buy a Jet City, go buy a JCM 800 or 900. You're not going to get what you think of as chime with a Vox. It's sparkly. It's if you think of chimes as wind chimes, I could get down with that, but if you go on a forum, it's not described that way.
It's not at all. And yeah, you did a perfect job of like what I was hearing, because like I was taking pedals off the board.
Yeah.
It was just like, no, this is all right. Like, I'll just let this go.
Right. I played a 3-hour gig with Jen Maurer last night at Old 97, and all I had was the AC15 and the tremolo. And I didn't even really need to use that as an effect. It's just, if you put the right guitar through it, it sounds every bit as good as an acoustic by itself, in my opinion.
That's a ringing endorsement right there.
I love my Marshall Origin, and I was just working on Dan Cooley's 71 Bandmaster reverb the other day, and that's a fantastic amplifier. You talk about full-bodied. My God, you turn the bass knob up to 4. You don't even have to go halfway to 5. You turn it up to 4. It's just like the whole room suddenly reverberates just from you play the chord and you think, I just sat down on the fluffiest bed ever.
Swimming in the
It's
tone,
like
huh?
I just put a nice blanket on. That's a great amp. That's a very cool amp. I love silver faces. I have some antique heads that use tubes that aren't even manufactured anymore. That I'm considering turning into a silver face Princeton circuit.
I had done that with a old Silvertone radio from the 30s, I think. Yeah, converted it to more of a Princeton circuit. That was a really cool amp.
It's such a fun project.
It is.
It's getting into the guts of how things work.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Don't be scared, but be careful. You
Yeah,
know?
just never put. I mean, I'm not telling people to go play with 400 volts of electricity, but just one hand at a time. Don't ever put two hands into the metal box, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, keep one in your pocket.
Right. It's just like when you take the car battery out, right? You don't put both hands on it until it's all the way out. Just, take your time with it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing I love most about working on people's guitars or people's amplifiers. It's the only time that I can truly set something down and sit back and think, this is someone else's property. This is someone else's workhorse. This is their maybe livelihood if it's their fantastic vintage acoustic guitar. So I can really sit down and use patience and dive into something and have that be the only thing that really kind of matters in that moment. It's not like I'm rushing to get a song done or I'm working on deadline at my job. It's like I have to get this right for the customer who is also my friend and make this sound good for their next performance no matter what they're doing. And I take that mentality when I work on my own stuff too. Because I don't want to get on stage with something that I worked on, have it not work, and that just damages your reputation, And
it's a great mindfulness exercise.
It's mechanical therapy. There's nothing quite like it.
Yeah,
it's a good way to approach it.
Yeah.
When you worked on my Strat, I got it back better than when I got it for the first time.
Thank you. I loved that guitar. I really enjoyed working on that guitar. Stratocasters are designed with mechanics in mind, right? They're designed for the player, but designed by an engineer who couldn't play a single note. Mm-hmm. And when you work on that guitar, it's the perfect marriage of technology, nature, and sound, and it's so many passions in one thing. I don't like playing Stratocasters. I don't like the 25.5-inch scale. I don't like the bridge pickup, but I do.
That's not the kind of player you are.
It's but the sound that they provide through that single coil design, that neck pickup, you can't deny the sound that comes out of that neck pickup. It's on so many records. I mean, it's the sound of the last 70 years.
Yeah.
There's just the Stratocaster is just it's an Excalibur. It's timeless. It's tried and true. I was really, really happy that you asked me to work on that guitar. I had a great time just turning in each screw.
Cool. I'm gonna call you for some more work. I've got
thank you.
a 84 Epiphone Blues custom amp.
Oh, okay.
That I got used about 7 years ago, and I've never done any work to it. It's so beat up.
I'm not great with solid state.
It's not.
Oh, okay. I can do a little bit with circuit boards. It takes me a little bit longer because you have to trace. You can't actually see where the wire goes. You really have to get in there with a light, I do anyways because I don't. I've worked more with point-to-point and true vintage amplifiers. But I'd be glad to look at it.
Come out here with all kinds of business. I got an amp that could use something too.
Nice. Yeah, it's really fun.
We haven't even really been recording this whole time. We're just getting you here. Get some work done.
It's funny. Sometimes I'll say that at work. We'll get halfway through an interview and I'll say, "Okay, you ready to start?" And the person that I'm interviewing will look at me with this look of horror because they already didn't want to be on camera to begin with, be on the news. Yeah, it's fun.
Now, this is episode 11 or something for us. So these are all new jokes for us.
Yeah. Oh, my favorite thing to tell people when I've left an establishment is, they're like, "Oh, have a good day, and take care. We'll see you next time." I'm like, "We'll see you on TV." And that always kind of catches people off guard. Yeah.
Cool. So what is it that you do, and which
cameraman for Fox 8.
Fox 8. Okay.
What was your follow-up question?
Which network?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep. Well, to be more specific about Fox 8, I used to work in the news department the last 5 years. Now I work for New Day Cleveland in the creative services department. So I used to do the investigation beats. I used to do crime. I used to do general news, lots of sports coverage when I worked second shift. I've done the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions, a lot of Cavs games, Indians games, Browns games, playoffs. I've traveled a little bit for work. I've been to Miami for work. But now in the creative department, we focus a lot on local, which I love. We highlight local businesses strictly. Today I went out to a shop in Twinsburg that was called Craft Makers DIY, and this woman who used to be a kindergarten teacher runs this art collective cooperative where she supplies all the supplies, all the paint and the brushes and stencils and pencils and tape and whatever you could need, and you just go in and you pay for what you use to paint something or she had this project where Valentine's Day is coming up, and there were these styrofoam hearts, and rather than just painting them, she had the one woman take a little plastic cup and pour white paint into it and make a layer, and then on the edge, going around the edge of the cup, pink paint, and then it layered kind of like when you do sand in a jar, it started to make these little layers, and then red paint, and then blue paint, and then white paint, and then she turned the cup upside down, and then you saw all the colors just kind of stream through and run together. They never mixed; they just kind of ran through, and that was really neat to see.
Yeah.
And so that was the Craft Makers out in Twinsburg, and then we go to so many places. I forget where we were first this morning. Oh, we were at a store called Sanity in Sugar and Falls, a local clothing store that's been around for 13 years. Yesterday I was at Ready Set Coffee Roasters in Gordon Square, ran by Chris Allen, who plays in the Ohio City Singers. I've known about Chris, but I never knew that he had a business, let alone was in the booming coffee scene of Cleveland. Cleveland has great craft beer. Cleveland has excellent coffee roasters in town.
Really?
Yes. And Ready Set, Rising Star, just to name a few. But Ready Set, I think, it's a cool product because they started from the ground up. It was something they started before the pandemic out of passion, right, hobby, and then brought it into fruition. And that's how a lot of those places start. It's just something they're doing in their garage. It's like you go talk to craft brew people, and they go, I was brewing beer in my garage with my buddies, and they tested it out, and they got free beer, and they were happy, and they said, hey, you should start a bar. So we did. Same thing with these coffee people. They buy stuff on Amazon to try it out at home, and then they're making their own blends, and then it catches on, and it just comes from the ground up. And there's just so many people that are able to build things from the ground up in the Northeast Ohio area. And so New Day Cleveland, who I work for, makes that their mission to tell people about it and go out and see it and utilize it.
That's awesome. That's a really awesome thing you're doing for the community. That's
Thanks.
cool. I feel like we're doing something similar with the music.
You are.
We just lost one of those coffee makers. My friend Ryan Lose, he's got Ryan's Coffee House, but he just moved down to Florida. So
Good for him.
he got away from this cold weather. but
On to bigger and better.
Brought some coffee down there with him.
Yeah. And he can send it back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got some upstairs.
It's his sun-roasted blend, right? Yeah. Like a little southern kind of marketing for us.
Cool. That sounds like a really fun job, man.
It is. Thank you.
Cameraman for that. All right.
Yeah. It's great. I say less blood and guts and more glitter.
Yeah.
Let's take a second to get back into the music and mention we're in partnership with Listen CLE.
Yeah, so these local businesses, hopefully we'll be hearing some music brought to you by Listen CLE with the local music. They got, 9 mood-based playlists going on right now?
Yeah,
that's right.
Listen's great.
Yeah.
That's
They
right.
do a great product.
Exclusively Ohio artists,
Yes.
Ohio musicians on the playlists. Go to listencle.com for a link to all of the playlists.
I saw a some pictures of the lowering of Ryan's sea cow for New Year's with them. They have a manatee that they decorate in lights and lower for New Year's.
I remember hearing the song.
Named Ryan Sea Cow. So I
That's
saw some
amazing.
pictures of that. It cracked me up.
McFarland Manor.
Yeah. Yes.
I actually was lucky enough to play music the last 2 New Years, so I haven't watched any ball or cow drop.
Yeah.
Have you been were you on stage at the Stroke of Midnight?
I was lucky enough to play with Momojo this year down in Akron. They had a couple people out sick, and so Jen Maurer called me 2 days beforehand. She goes, "What are you doing for New Year's?" I was like, "I don't know." I looked at Chrissy, and she was like, "I don't know. Well, we were just going to sit around in our sweatpants." And she's like, "If you got an offer for a gig, you go see it. I'll smooch you when you get home." And I'm like, "Okay." He was like, "I didn't want to like ditch my girlfriend for New Year's, but I really wanted to play this gig." And so I ended up, the day before New Year's, Jen's like, "Okay, you're in." I'm like, "Yes." So I had never played any of the songs. I knew Danny Jenkins playing drums. I knew Toussaint, who was playing bass. And I've known Jen for a couple of years. I knew of Sam. I knew of Leanne. But I never really played with these people, let alone play songs with them that I also didn't know.
Yeah.
And so usually when that band plays, Lenny plays bass. He's in the back. Joe Golden plays guitar. He's in the back. And Sam's up front playing horns. And Toussaint will be up front with bass to sing. But usually guitar's in the back. And Jen had me up front just so I could communicate chords with her, because I had no idea where we were going. So, one song she would just say, "Okay, it's just E and F sharp." I'm like, "Oh, great." Or, "Okay, this one's F sharp and then C sharp 7, and then it goes down to A, and then it turns around on B and goes back to F sharp." And I was like, "I hate C sharp."
So you got
That's brave, man.
you got
I
all
need
of
lead
this?
sheets when I do something like that.
Yeah, that's
for
what I was
sure.
gonna say. You got all of this on the show day.
Yeah.
Like you didn't even get any
man.
any
No
advance.
presses.
I had
Wow.
3 songs to prep. She gave me some recordings, and just so I could learn the signature introduction lick. But other than that, it was
Other than that, free reign, huh?
fly by the seat of our pants. It's usually how I work. It's how a lot of Apostle Jones was to start. I played with them for 2 years, and that was a lot of free form. I actually, from the Momojo gig, I've been given 2 gigs with Michelle Romery, play guitar. Jimmy is in grad school now, so he's going to take some time away. Brent Hamker is going to be working with her later in the year. But that would be a similar scenario. I'll have another week or so to learn all of her music for a 3-hour gig. And we'll see what happens,
So do you have different methods for getting this down depending on the range of time that you have to learn things?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. What's your process?
Yeah.
Just sit and listen. The process is just sit and listen. I'm really bad about. I can be very reactive in a conversation, right? So sometimes when we're all talking, I'll start to step on toes a little bit, and we're talking back and forth so fast. But when I sit down to learn music, music is really the only time where I take time in the conversation to sit and wait. So playing music for me is very much about waiting and then responding full mind and full intent. I'm a bit of an entertainer, but I can't move around and fly around on the stage if I don't know where my hands are going. Doesn't matter what my feet are doing if my hands aren't where they need to be. So when I sit down and listen and learn something, I'll listen to it over and over and over and over. And someone might say, "Oh my God, I've listened to this song 10 times. I'm sick of it." And I think I still didn't get that chord right. So I need to do it again. And then I'll listen to the same 30 seconds for an hour. And it's just, I just treat it like homework, which I hate homework. but I guess it's maybe a little bit clinical, but I treat it like my job when I'm learning music to play with someone.
Yeah.
Because hopefully I'll get another gig.
Cool. What practice methods do you use to be able to have a foundation like that where it fly on the seat of your pants, like you said?
You mean to what are my practice methods to learn music, or my practice methods to get to the point of flying by the seat of my pants?
Yeah, that, like, to keep that mentality as a instinct.
So music always flows, right? Is always moving, whether it's just a drum part by itself or whether the whole band is going. There's always all of the layers moving at once. And so when I sit down to practice, I take the reverse approach. So like when you play with 7 or 8 people on stage, you need to create dynamics and sometimes just not play at all. But when I practice, I try to recreate all of those layers in that constant movement. So I might practice for a good 15 minutes where I'm just playing a couple different scales and continuously moving and not ever really sitting on one note, because I'm emulating what the whole band might be doing and thinking about what's coming next, and making sure that if I go up major, do I need to come down minor? Is this a blues song? Am I going up major and then coming down off the 7th? A lot of Eastern European music will do that. They'll go up in the major scale, come down a mixolydian. So instead of ba-da, it'll go ba-da. Use a minor 7th to descend and a major 7th to ascend. So I think about little tiny things like that. Or I'll think about, okay, I've been playing in the same kind of rhythm and tempo for a little bit. And I'll try to emulate what Chase Oakley does. He's such a monster. He'll go to a jam night and be playing Grateful Dead, and then suddenly he plays with the all-nighters a lot. He and Greg Castillo and Joe Boda and Adam Radisky, they're the main guys that do the all-nighters gigs. Chase will be playing Grateful Dead, and then he'll throw some kind of Kirk Hammett lick in there. And where he'll just go do 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 do. What did I just see? And so I keep that in mind. Of there's dynamic shift and there's tempo shift. If you talk all the time like this, it doesn't get the point across until it's the last 5 seconds. And it's like when you watch a TV commercial, people remember the last 5 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. So I try to, essentially, I go into practicing thinking about how am I going to best either create a moment or assist a moment. It's not always about you. It's not always about me. It's not always about standing out. It's about the moment. So either changing things up just enough to make the moment or stepping back to enhance another moment. So my rehearsal is to just continuously move as if there are a whole band around me, and then pay attention to that movement. Am I moving monotonously? Am I moving too fast? Am I moving too slow? Have I been doing the same thing over and over again? Where does it go next? Where does it need to go? Am I creating enough tension? Am I creating enough harmony? Am I creating any resolution? And I use that as a basis to always to enable myself to always be prepared for what's next, because I don't know what's coming next. But I know that when I see it, I'll know how to react.
That's great. Nice. So that flow, you're describing that flow right now. And I was just listening. Your hands are doing this, and I'm like, I hope that's coming through on the podcast because it's following what you're saying perfectly.
I talk with my hands a lot. My therapist says that she right off the bat, she was like, "You like metaphors, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." It's a great way to actually paint a picture of what we really mean in life without singling things out or getting too deep to where you've either said too much or people don't understand. When I describe a tough situation, I say it's like a car going down the highway without any oil in it.
Yeah. I found that works with, I used to coach like middle school. So I would, rather than like right arm goes here, like I had a move, there's a high crotch as a wrestling move. And, you rotate your body as such as you can see in the camera for the video version. But I called it being an awesome waiter.
Yeah,
An
yeah.
awesome waiter doesn't just come out and hand you your food. They uncover it, present it like this, drop to a knee.
Give me that burger.
Yeah, so like every wrestler I've had, they know what an awesome waiter is. But you remember that, like they wouldn't remember high crotch if they wrestled sixth grade only.
No.
And,
And that ties back into, am I being an awesome waiter? Awesome. Good. Am I being a good wrestler? I like that. I like that. Inductive reasoning.
Yeah, it sticks. It sticks.
So who else around Cleveland have you been playing gigs with?
Well, I when I first moved here, I was like, oh, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's going to be tons of music. I got to get in right away, right? And I got on Craigslist and I was looking for, because I didn't really know anyone. I don't know where to look for music. So in Erie, you would look on Craigslist for bands that were looking for people to play. So I got on Craigslist and I found there was a band that was looking for a lead guitar player. And I was like, well, I can play lead. I don't know anyone, but I'll play lead, fine, you know. And I got in with this band called the Boom Shakalakas, based out of Lakewood. Jacob Gunn made that his brainchild. He used to play with 19 Action News like 10, 12 years ago. And then he had Go On Gunslinger. And Go On Gunslinger kind of fell apart. And he put together the Boom Shakalakas with Go On Gunslinger's piano player's brother, Justin, and Justin's brother Ryan played drums. And then Jacob had known Ben Villius for forever, and then they found me. And we did that for 3 years up until coronavirus. And I was kind of getting into other projects leading up towards the pandemic. Because I just always want more, you know. I like to play a lot of styles. I like to be versatile and varied in my networking. And I started working with Guy Snowden and the Citizens, and then I started working with Apostle Jones around that same time. Got in the rotation with Matt Moody and Marco Prea, and then I got into Guy Snowden. Dave was actually the original guitar player. Dave Deakey was the original guitar player for Guy Snowden and the Citizens. And, you know, Dave, he's everywhere, right? So he went on to pursue his internship there and finish that for his career and do more with Sea Level and start laying the foundation for their Burn Your Own Gas CD, which they played 2 sold-out shows for when they released that CD during 2020, which I think that was really cool. That was a great accomplishment for Dave. He did a Grog Shop and Winchester. They sold both the crowds out for those shows. I lived with Alex Made for a little bit. I played bass in Cellophane Jane for one show at the Beachland Ballroom. That was fun. I played a couple shows with Karen Spear coming out of the pandemic. She is from Chardon. She went off on a trip after she'd gotten out of college and was down south, and she came back and decided she wanted to do music, got into the Lakewood scene where most of the original music happens. And Taylor Lamborn introduced her to me at a Apostle Jones show where we opened up for we were in between Julia Green and Maddie Finn at the Music Box. And so I started doing some songwriting with Karen and some shows, and then we recorded her debut album, Karen, with Tori Kurtz, who goes by Mylan Music. Tori is a fantastic producer and coach. She focuses a lot, or was focusing a lot on like electronic stuff, and when we were doing the Karen album, it was a lot more acoustic and organic and almost kind of folk-like. And Tori's just an amazing coach. She creates a space where she just kind of says, it's almost like going to therapy. She sits down and says, okay, are you ready? Just play the take. And I did probably 15 takes per song until I felt it was right. And she just kind of sampled, picked and chose. And
bits from each take.
Yeah.
Cool.
And put it
Like
together
David
how
Gilmour.
her vision was. Yeah, exactly. And that album, I think that album turned out really well. The Karn band kind of dissolved over the summer. The drummer, Josh, amazing drummer. He's in like 6 bands. So and he was getting ready to start his own business.
How do you spell that for listeners? Karn.
Oh,
So they can find some.
Kahrin. Josh was getting ready to start his own business. Tori wanted to step back from playing live shows and focus on her recordings. And so the band just kind of dissolved a little bit after a busy summer. And so she's been doing her own solo thing again where she started. Apostle Jones was changing gears over the summer. I played with them on a rotation in 2019 and then got in full-time in 2020 and played with them all of 2020 and most of 2021, and then the lineup was changing. It just happens in that band. It's always kind of been a rotating lineup, but it was hard to come by people in 2020, so more solidified. And now it's varied again, which is good. It's good to have variety in that band because it kind of is like a blues and kind of a soul experience. We were very careful about using terms like soul and R&B and blues because we were all ethnically different from the owners of those genres. But that was the vein that we were in. But for the live experience, it was much more of an entertainment and a jam atmosphere. And there's only so many times you can do something different with the same people when you're playing 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So, new challenges present the need for new minds and new musicians. Guy Snowden, we recorded his album throughout 2020 and 2021. We released that November of this past year of 2021. We had a show at the Beachland Ballroom Tavern, and my girlfriend Chrissy opened up for that. And that was a really fun show. We've been invited back to the Beachland. We have yet to set the date as things fluctuate with COVID. Then I've been working with Nathan Hedges, playing steel with him at the House of Blues. We've been doing first or second Friday of the month. So I look forward to that gig coming back when he's ready to come back out, having had their child.
Do you feel yourself ever settling down for one group, or is it the thrill in having a lot of projects going on?
I would like to play with one group. I would really like that. If I was going to play with just one group, it would have to be more of a jam type band with a varied style, because I enjoy playing a lot of different approaches. And the other thing of it is that really I'll play with whoever asks me. Karin had asked me to play with her. Mikey had asked me to play. Guy had asked me to play. Jamie Horton has asked me to record on a couple tracks with him. He's offered me a couple gigs with his band Dive Bombs because he rotates his lineup as well. So, I guess I would just have to start saying no to people if I was to ever really stay in one position. But I enjoy that people consider me and ask me to play a part for them. Jamie Horton did his "What Are You Doing on New Year's Eve" track, and that he released early December of last year. And he called me on the phone. He goes, "Hey, I'm trying to write this lead hook, and I can't figure it out. And here's what I'm thinking, and you're the guy that I thought of to help me with this." I was like, "Wow, thank you." Yeah. So we talked it out on the phone, going back and forth until we kind of came up with an idea together. And he goes, "Great. What are you doing Saturday?" I went up to his practice space at Rock and Roll City Studios, and we talked about what we had gone over on the phone, and he had some voice memos on his phone, and I laid that track down, and I thought that was really cool. That was a really fun experience to go through that experience of talking out on the phone and then laying it down. I love the whole recording process.
Yeah.
I love working with other minds and other perspectives and having that producer and coach to kind of draw you out of your shell and, try this and try that. Okay, do it again, but have this instead. Most recently, I was working with Skylar Keffer from Orpheus Roth on his Isn't It recording. We were at a studio out in North Ridgeville. And I don't remember the name of the producer. I'd only met him the one time. And he was like, he gave me some really great notes because I've never really had feedback on playing the pedal steel because it's just not common around here. So that I loved hearing, okay, this sounded good, that sounded good, and this sounded good. Scratch that, redo this, go slower here and more high notes here, and then just don't play anything right here. I love that coaching from time to time because it's when I play with such a variety of people, it's me no matter what, right? And sometimes I forget to change my voice just a little bit to better match. It's kind of like, John Mayer does great as John Mayer, right? But when John Mayer does Dead and Friends, right? Isn't that what they call it? Yeah.
Dead and Company.
Dead and Company. Yeah. Sorry, Dylan. It's not melodic Jerry Garcia. It's bluesy, moody John. Mm-hmm. And, that some people love that. Some people go to Dead and Company expecting the melodic feature, and, they don't get that. And so having that kind of feedback and almost that reminder, like, here's your boundary, right? That can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. What styles feel most home to you?
I don't know.
How about enjoying? What do you enjoy?
My style and approach to playing was once described to me as like an Eastern jazzy cowboy, right? Because I liked a lot of George Harrison for a long time. So I liked a lot. I was playing the bouzouki, which is Greek and Irish roots, and I played in a rockabilly band in Erie called the Dirty Pickles. Matty B and the Dirty Pickles. We did 50s tributes. So I would do these like kind of rock and roll licks with maybe some little jazzy things and some minor influences from eastern parts. And then growing up in the small town, you have some more country blues kind of stuff. So I don't know. There's a lot of obviously classic rock influences given the guitar as an instrument, and there's a lot of blues given again the guitar as an instrument. But I kind of take that minor seventh that you have a lot in blues, and the bendiness that you have a lot in classic rock, and then especially George Harrison. I mean, those bending strings was his bread and butter, and then combine that with a little bit of twang, combine that with some exotic minor notes or harmonic notes, and then above all, give it a melody, give it a phrase, and like rockabilly guitar solos had a lot of phrasing. They were short, they weren't long and drawn out, and I've found that I'm great at like a 16-bar solo. I can craft a really great phrase in 16 bars, and then that's it. And you get outside of that, and then it goes into my wheelhouse of some kind of scales and some pretty thirds and some sixth notes, just kind of playing to the chord. And that comes from, again, that practice style I use of continuously moving. And sometimes it's a weak point that sometimes I don't wait for a note to ring out until the end of a solo. If I'm playing on a 3-hour night, then I'll keep that more conscious in my head, like, okay, we're playing the whole night. You don't have to play the whole night, though.
Yeah.
And so some songs I'll sit back and let one note go for, 10 seconds or so and try to build up that tension a little bit more. But I guess my style and approach would be a little bit of twang, a little bit of moodiness, a little bit of exotic themes, and just above all, trying to make it melodic.
All right.
Nice. Should we go gear? Since we already talked about amps, but we'll work our
One
way
thing
back.
I never really talk about is that I've written my own songs.
Oh,
I've got about 40 songs written that I have faith in that could be decent. I almost put a band together in 2019. Dan Socha from Band of Thieves, who he and Bethany Joy are an item, and they do a lot of her music. He works with Ray Flanagan and Ben Gage. We were playing. I was having him play with me for a little bit, and Joe Boda was playing bass, and I had a guy named Matt House who lives in Lakewood, fantastic drummer, but he's a little more career oriented, so he's like, no, I'm really focusing on my job. I don't want to jam. I'm like, that's cool. We practiced for about a month in the summer of 2019. But I have a couple recordings that I've done that I did with Alex when we lived together, and I really would like to find a path to record. Like I have great video equipment, right? And I have the video editing software in it. So I have some audio equipment and audio editing software as well. But I don't really care to do that by myself because it's not my world. I'm not a producer in that aspect, right? So I would love to really finally explore that this year. I wanted to do it last year. I almost worked with Steve Perino, but just the money with recording is weird. It's like, should I pay a good producer, or should I go buy a Focusrite for $80 and do it myself? But I don't have a drum kit, and like the furnace is gonna kick on any minute, and then the dog's barking, and is the song really even good? I think it's good, but is it like, I want to. The purpose of recording a song is to A, preserve it, but B, also have someone else relate to it. It's not even having someone else listen to it. It's, making a little bit of a difference and communicating and sharing with other people. That's why we do this podcast. We don't do it for ourselves. We do it to share. We do it for the community. We do it for resonance. And so I really want to find a way to find either a way to pay for a decent studio to work with, or that's not going to drain my savings, or get up the courage and put everything aside and just say, look, I've got half the equipment already. I know what I'm talking about. I may not know what I'm doing with that, but I know what I'm doing here. I can use that here. So to get back to gear, I've got two AC-15s, two Marshalls. I've got a Tascam DR40, an SM58. I've got XLRs. Bert Barrios has it right now, but I have a 12-channel Carvin mixer with a spring reverb in it from the 80s. So it's like I'm halfway there. I just don't see the point in taking that leap for myself to record myself.
Yeah.
And that goes back to also just preferring to work with a producer I love. I love working with a producer in that environment.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult, like when you're recording yourself, because it takes you out of the musician mindset and into the producer mindset. And it's a tough switch for me. It's a tough switch going back and forth. There's, Prince was doing all his own stuff, so he was a natural. But I can totally understand that. That's the way I feel. I got all these mics and I never record anything.
Yeah.
Other than these podcasts.
Cool. All right, Tyler, man. I think it's about time to wrap up here.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So I just want to say real quick that I love Gretsch guitars. I've had about 10 in the last 15 years that I've bought and traded and sold and all that. Their pickups are they're humbuckers, but they're half the winding of a traditional humbucker, like a PAF style. And so you have a lot more clarity in that, but you still have all the fullness. And it's been a really versatile guitar for me to use. And I'm glad that, when I first moved here, not a lot of people were playing them. A lot more people have started to pick them up over the last couple years, and I'm glad for that, because it's a different voice, it's a different perspective, and it's a great sound.
Yeah.
And I want people to share the joy that I've had in making music with them too.
Absolutely.
So we didn't really talk about the guitars much. That's all I got to say about that.
All right, Gretsch Guitars, good plug for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Gretsch
I was
guitars,
the Gretsch Guitar Player of the Month for November of 2020.
Oh.
2021, sorry.
Very cool.
Yeah, worldwide. It's on their website.
Yeah.
Cool, I saw that.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. You got a movie recommendation for us?
I like Jackie Brown.
Oh,
All
I
right.
haven't watched that in a while.
Yeah.
Overlooks Tarantino is very, very good. I know which one.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, Tyler Ray. Well, thanks for coming by. It was
Thanks
really
for having
decent.
me.
Great conversation, and you got some good insight on how tone works and through the amp.
Yeah. Now we'll load some broken amps into your car.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm not a great technical player, but tone is something that I really focus on, and so I really appreciate when people compliment the tone of my playing.
Cool. Yeah. How important is tone to all the beginner guitarists out there? How much time do you spend?
Don't
just
concentrate
dialing it all
on
in?
don't ever concentrate on playing fast until you're ready for it. If you can't get the tone right, it will never sound good, slow or fast. So turn that volume knob down. I know we're taking up time here. You can cut out some of my rambling from earlier so I can fit this in. Because if above anything else, I'm sorry.
That's all
the
right.
guitar knob has 10 digits on it. Okay. Depending on the guitar you have, the volume knob is going to be most effective between 1 and 5 or 1 and 7. And then once you turn it up all the way, there's nowhere else to go. So please stop buying boost pedals. Stop buying 3 distortion pedals. Turn your amp up nice. Turn your guitar volume to like 5 or 7 until it's time to play your solo. Turn that tone knob back to about 5. And then when you need that extra treble, you can get it. When you need that extra volume, you can get it. You don't need to be doing this down here. You don't need to be just up at 10 the whole time. You're missing so much of the rest of the world by playing at the ceiling the whole time. So yeah, to beginner guitarists, turn everything down to 5. You won't enjoy it at 10 if you don't enjoy it at 5, because if you only enjoy it at 10, you'll never know what you're missing and you will miss out. And it will, if it sounds bad when it's slow, it will still sound bad when it's fast. Turn all your knobs down.
Cool. Wise words. I'm going to take your advice myself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Tyler Ray.
Yeah.
This has
Thanks.
been Cuyahoga Sound
Yeah,
Podcast
thanks for
again.
having me.
I'm Evan Stone.
I'm Chuck Schilling.
Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Peace.